What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update today for 2021. The next two upcoming packages, the physical infrastructure package, which is part one of the Build Back Better plan from President Biden. Part two of the Build Back Better plan is the next stimulus package known as the American Families Plan that could ultimately be combined back into one package and pass through the reconciliation process, or passed separately with Republican support for the first part of the package, and the second part of the package almost certainly passed through the reconciliation process, where the Democrats can pass the next stimulus package completely on their own. We also have some breaking news today from the Texas governor, which we're going to hear directly from, and President Biden himself regarding more stimulus. Yes, a very exciting episode, lots to go over. We're going to jump right in, but if you're new to the channel or you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates on what's going on in Washington, D.C., what's going on in the world, and everything stimulus related. Remember, if you haven't seen this channel yet, there's literally dozens of different stimulus programs: rent assistance, mortgage assistance, property tax assistance, utility assistance, internet assistance that thousands of our viewers got, as well as state stimulus checks, county stimulus checks, and state stimulus programs coming out in the near future among the ones that have already been announced, as states are all getting their share of $350 billion from the third stimulus check package that will be becoming available soon, as well as the negotiations over the next stimulus package, which may or may not include all of the 15 or 20 different items that they are currently negotiating on to be in the next stimulus package, including a fourth stimulus check, monthly recurring stimulus checks, Social Security raises, Medicare expansion to have additional Medicare benefits with no additional cost and lower the Medicare eligibility age, 2 years of free college, 2 years of free preschool, and the monthly stimulus checks that are going to start on July 15th for children of $250 to $300 per month that is already passed for this 1 year and could be extended in the next package for at least 4 more years. Also, if you can, give this video a like down below. It really helps out our channel. And first, let's go to the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, who's a Republican, on a huge announcement coming directly from him.
Governor Abbott joins me now from the Del Rio sector of our border, where the Ingram Angle reported a few years ago. Governor, how will you get this wall built without the help of the federal government?
Laura, Texas will build it ourselves. However, tonight is not the night to announce those details. Those details about building the wall will be made next week. We've been through the process, however, of analyzing what it will take, the steps that are needed, the legal processes that are required. We believe that we can do it in a multi-step process.
Governor,
make the fine point up, Laura. Listen, we have to build the border. I've been down here talking to the people in the Rio Grande Valley, and the way they are being overrun is reprehensible. It's disastrous what the Biden administration has done. President Trump had adequately secured our border. He had the Remain in Mexico policy. He began building the border wall, and now suddenly all of that disappeared. And as you highlighted, it's led to a dramatic increase in the number of people coming across the border. But it's not just unaccompanied minors. People who are causing great damage and harm to the residents right here in Del Rio, as well as up and down the entire border. As a result, that's why I announced tonight a multitude of actions that Texas is taking, including the fact that Texas passed a budget adding more than $1 billion for border security in the state, which is a good start. But Laura, also announced that Texas is going to begin increasing arrests that are being made, arresting people coming across the border, arresting people for trespassing. And because I've declared it a disaster, that elevates the penalty, ensuring that people that we arrest for trespassing, they will be serving time in jail. We're going to take this very seriously. We're going to do everything possible to secure our border, including building a border wall.
So yeah, Texas Governor Abbott, who to me looks strikingly similar to President Bush Jr. Don't you think they kind of look similar? But yeah, apparently Texas Governor Abbott is going to continue building the wall in Texas on Texas's own dime without support, because obviously President Biden is against finishing the wall. It's just one of those Democrat versus Republican things where they see completely differently, and they've already spent billions of dollars on the wall, yet it doesn't look like President Biden wants to finish it. But the Texas governor is going to be taking it upon himself to finish the wall in Texas. We'll be announcing more details here soon. They have also announced a $1 billion budget for security enforcement from personnel around the wall as well. And they said that anybody they catch, they're going to put in prison for 6 to 12 months. Yeah, so, or maybe I should say jail or prison. That yeah, they're not joking around down there in Texas. Let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think this is what the country needs, or do you think that they should not be doing this at all? It's interesting how Republicans and Democrats have completely different points of views when it comes to this. Next up, President Biden is overseas at the G7 conference with other world leaders. And as you can see here in this headline, world leaders back President Biden's G7 call for more economic stimulus. The summit of major democracies rejects post COVID austerity and welcomes the U.S. appeal to meet the moment. President Biden has won support at the G7 summit for a, quote, carry on spending stimulus plan as Western leaders rejected austerity in a post COVID world and vowed to tackle inequality at home and abroad. Biden's call for continued economic stimulus was backed by fellow leaders at the summit in Cornwall in southwest England, in a gathered frame by leaders as the moment the West starts a fight back against a ascendant China. By the way, China is probably the only major country that is not in the G7. The U.S. president opened the first session of the summit at Kerbis Bay and, according to one witness, was backed by all G7 leaders as he called on the West to, quote, meet the moment and support the economy. Italy's prime minister and the former head of the European Central Bank also mimics what the actual European Central Bank said this week, followed Biden and declared, quote, there is a compelling case for expansionary fiscal policy, meaning more spending through stimulus packages and stimulus provisions. Draghi, who is Italy's prime minister, argued it was the right to spend now, even if Western countries had to commit to longer-term fiscal prudence to reassure markets and ensure central bankers did not take fright and excessively hike interest rates. Summit host Boris Johnson says it is vital that we don't repeat the mistakes of the last great crisis, the last big economic recession of 2008, when the recovery was not uniform across all parts of society. And what happened with the last crisis that not only the U.S. dealt with, but the entire world, the housing crisis that we kind of think of from 2008 and 2009, well, it took us over 4 years to recover from that when it comes to unemployment and other economic degrees. And that was without dealing with the virus at all. They only passed one major stimulus package back then, which was kind of the start of the modern day stimulus package here in the United States. And almost all economists, unless they're like a far right-leaning economist, will say that yes, they should have passed more stimulus back then and could have shortened the economic recovery time. Instead of 4 years, by passing another package, they could have maybe dropped it down to 3 years. By passing another two or three stimulus packages, they could have cut the economic recovery time in half, which would have brought trillions of dollars more to the economy and would have supported people and businesses along the way. Right now, from this economic crash from 2020 and 2021, over 37% of all small businesses have already gone out of business. So over 1 in 3 small businesses, restaurants, mom and pop shops, small businesses, anything you might think of that is a small business, over 1 in 3 of them have already gone out of business. Those jobs are completely gone, and it's gonna take a long time to bring back millions and millions of businesses. I mean, that just doesn't happen overnight in the next 30 to 60 days. If you think about a business owner that lost his business and filed bankruptcy, They don't exactly have the money to go and just start up another business, in the next month or two. It takes people quite some time to get on their feet. And this is exactly what both President Biden and the G7 leaders are saying, that yes, they all agree we need to continue to support more stimulus and more fiscal response. The G7 countries will use the summit to commit to higher spending to help the developed world, with a clear message that the West offers an alternative to the support offered by Beijing. The leaders agreed to supply 1 billion vaccines as well to poorer countries, which comes in response to China's, quote, vaccine diplomacy. The U.S. has claimed Beijing offers its medical help with strings attached. So again, as you can see here, President Biden shows world support for more stimulus packages, and the G7 countries all agree that they're going to continue to pass more stimulus packages to bring us out of this recession, this world recession, faster. Now, in addition to this, the White House has released a new statement saying President Biden and G7 leaders to announce steps to forge a more fair and inclusive global economy. And this has to do with the minimum tax rate. As you can see here, they're rallying around the U.S. proposal for a strong global minimum tax among the G7 countries. G7 leaders will endorse a strong global minimum tax of at least 15% for all countries. This is a U.S. priority, is a critical step towards ending the decades-long race to the bottom when it comes to tax rates for corporations that pushes nations to compete over who can offer the lowest tax rate to large corporations at the expense of protecting workers, investing in infrastructure, and growing the middle class. By the way, the G7 is short for the Group of Seven world leaders, who is Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the US. As I noted before, China has been left out of the G7. I'm sure they're not very happy about that, even though they're considered the number one or number two economy, depending on when they do statistics, along with the US, but has not been invited to the G7 group. It's also interesting to note that the G7 has historically been against Russia as well. And with the new Russia hacks that have been going on, from Russia to the U.S. I shouldn't say it's from the Russian government. It's from Russian hacker groups. We've seen them shut down the gas pipelines. We've seen them shut down JBS, the largest meat producer here in the U.S., and also a ferry in Cape Cod. And I think there was one more thing that doesn't come to mind at the moment. But yeah, President Biden is going to be meeting with President Putin here, and they're going to be discussing those hacks as well. And President Biden is said to be, he's going to be kind of strict on that. President Biden has already done restrictions on Russia, economic restrictions, or I should say economic sanctions, actually, from interference. What President Biden says, they have proof that President Putin and, well, I should say maybe Russia, did interfere with the last election. And the U.S. has sanctions currently going on against Russia for that. And we may see even more unless President Putin maybe tries to bring the Russian rogue group of hackers to justice, which I'd be surprised if that happens. Now, this call for more economic stimulus from President Biden actually kind of echoes what we just started to see President Biden actually come out in support of more stimulus and another stimulus check here within the last 48 hours. So the question is President Biden now on board for a official fourth stimulus check, officially from his mouth to God's ears, or to your ears? It does seem like we're getting close to that. President Joe Biden says he's open to a fourth stimulus check, and he's happy to hear a range of ideas on the economy as well. This kind of mimics what he has said previously, that if Congress wants a fourth stimulus check, that they would be open to it. He's kind of now gone an extra step going forward, that said he is personally open to a fourth stimulus check, as well as showing this major national support across the world at the G7 summit. Remember, we have multiple different Democrats that have been pursuing a fourth stimulus check, or even monthly recurring stimulus checks in this next stimulus package. We have over half of the Democrats in the Senate that are pushing not just for a single stimulus check, but for monthly recurring stimulus checks to be included in President Biden's infrastructure package. Whether that's going to be the actual physical infrastructure package or part two of the package, which is the actual stimulus package, I think it's much more likely to be in the next stimulus package. But they could actually support these, or they could combine these still if they don't get support. Now, I should mention that there's a bipartisan Senate group, which has 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans, that has reached a deal, at least amongst themselves, over a infrastructure package, which would be Republican and Democrat support that they could pass without using the reconciliation process, get it done faster, then we can move on to the next stimulus package. What's important is Senator Joe Manchin from the Democrats, along with Kirsten Sinema, are both part of this bipartisan deal that has been reached amongst themselves for a $1.2 trillion infrastructure package. However, leaders still need to sign off on it, namely President Biden. President Biden will be looking at this package. It only is half and half, this $1.2 trillion. It's also interesting to note that the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a larger group, it's like 50 some bipartisan members, also has their own infrastructure package they're working on, which is 1.4 trillion, which President Biden would be a little bit more happy with. But remember, they need Senator Joe Manchin's, they pretty much need his approval, especially when they go for reconciliation with the next stimulus package. They will need every single Democrat to vote yes. And showing that they've passed multiple bills now with Republican support will be good for when they go to negotiations with Joe Manchin and say, listen, we just passed this infrastructure package with the Republicans. We just passed the bill before that from the Senate to make America more competitive with China, bring chip manufacturing back home, bring all these jobs back home, tech jobs, chip manufacturing, security jobs back home instead of having other countries like China produce those for us. Bring those back home. That was just passed with bipartisan support also from the Senate. So it will be good to see that when it comes time to pass the next stimulus package, when it comes to Joe Manchin, he likes to see that Congress is working the way it should and that one party is just not cramming it down the other's throats, which is what happened with the third stimulus check package. The Democrats passed that completely on their own. Not a single Republican voted for it. And it's just very, very likely that's what's going to happen again because, well, if the Republicans didn't vote for the third stimulus check and the third stimulus check package, do you think they're going to vote for the fourth stimulus check and the fourth stimulus package? No, probably not. So they're going to need to pass that through reconciliation, which means the Democrats can pass it all on their own. But they need every single Democrat from the Senate and 99% of Democrats from the House to say yes to that. Now, that is what happened with the third stimulus check package, but history will have to repeat itself, and they will have to do that again. By getting an infrastructure package done with bipartisan support, that all will not only make it faster to get to the next stimulus package, but it'll also make it more likely that they can pass it and get Joe Manchin on board because they can say, listen, Joe, we just passed several packages with the Republicans. It's just that they're not on board for this particular one, and we still need to pass it anyway. So I will keep you up to date here on everything on this channel, stimulus check wise, Washington, D.C. wise, everything that's going on important with our country, along with all these different stimulus provisions that are going to be becoming available here from the third stimulus check package, like mortgage assistance, rental assistance, property tax assistance, utility assistance, internet bill assistance, state stimulus checks, county stimulus checks, and more. So make sure to subscribe down below. After subscribing, click the bell icon that appears to all notifications to get reminder notifications when we go live, which is every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember those times and don't miss an episode. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. You can click this bottom video to see the state, county, and city stimulus checks that have been announced. And you can click this video to see President Biden's Social Security raise. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.